2023, and we have one bill on the agenda today. Before we take up this bill, since this is our first meeting, I do want to welcome members to the committee and also take a few minutes to have us go through introductions so everyone knows who is at the table. We will be getting a lot more chances to get to know each other over time. We will have many meetings ahead, and we will get to learn more about each other and what our interests and the key priorities are for each of us. But today we do have a bill that I will say will probably fill our time, and since we need to be out of the room by 10:45, I want to make sure that we do brief introductions today and then, you know, be able to talk more at future hearings. I'd like to have each of us state your name and where you're from and what district you represent, and I'll begin. I'm Melissa Wickland. I represent Senate District 51. I live in Bloomington, and I represent Bloomington, all of Richfield, and then a small part of Minneapolis. So I'd like to start at the left end, and Senator Morrison, if you could begin. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Senator Kelly Morrison. I represent District 45, which includes the entire Lake Minnetonka area and most of the city of Minnetonka. Very much looking forward to being part of this committee and the work we're going to do together. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Senator Leaskey.
My name is Senator Bill Liskey. I represent Senate District 58, which consists of a lot of communities, but the big ones would be New Prague, Northfield, Farmington, and surrounding areas such as Lonsdale, which is where I'm from.
Senator Hoffman.
Good morning. John Hoffman, Senate District 34. That's Brooklyn Park, Champlain, Coon Rapids, Dayton, and Rogers. If you guys ever get on the old Mississippi River, you can follow it up there. So,
Senator Utke.
Good morning, Senator Paul Etke. I represent Senate District 5 up in north central, northwestern Minnesota, which takes in all our parts of 6 counties from Hubbard to Becker, Cass, Morrison, Todd, and Wadena.
Thank you. Senator Mann.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Elise Mann, represent Senate District 50, which is Bloomington and Edina.
Thank you. And then moving over to Senator Bolden.
Morning. Thank you, Chair. My name is Senator Liz Bolden. I represent District 25, which is primarily Rochester area, which is where I'm from. Thank
you. Senator Abler.
Well, thanks. Jim Abler in Elka. I'm just glad to be here. I won by 186 votes, and so good to be here. And actually, this topic we're doing today came up a little bit at the door, so thanks.
Senator Kupek.
Senator Rob Kupek. I'm Senate District 4, which is Clay in the western part of Becker County, up in the Moorhead area.
Thank you. And now, if we could have the staff members at the table, please introduce yourself and your role. And we'll begin with, I'm sorry, I don't have your last name.
My name is Maggie Paridze. I'm Senator Mans, LA.
My name is Anna Burke. I am the committee CA.
My name is Haley Ryan, and I am the CLA for HHS.
I'm Katie Kavanagh. I'm Senate Counsel for at least the next couple of weeks for this committee, and my areas are basically the healthcare issues.
I am Dennis Albrecht. I am the fiscal analyst for this committee.
I'm Allie Hoffman-Litchie, and I am with Senate Counsel, and I do the human services aspect of this committee.
Thank you. And then I believe we have in the back of the room, we have the, at the table in the back, there are the researchers, committee pages. I don't have all the names with me, but at another, maybe at the next meeting, we can make sure that everybody that is also serving with the committee is introduced as well. And now I'd like to move to, or I'd like to take up the only bill we have on the agenda and have Senator McEwen, if you would go to the testifiers table. We have Senate File 1. Before we begin hearing the bill, I would like to set some expectations about how This hearing, and actually any hearing that we have in the Health and Human Services Committee, will be conducted. I know that today we're hearing a bill that people have very strong feelings about, we need to remember that in having the discussion today at the table, in the public testimony that comes before us, I expect that we will treat all members of the committee and the public with respect. I believe that members of the public who are testifying today need to keep their remarks respectful. Disruptive actions, outbursts, and clapping are not permitted in Senate hearings. We're all here to listen and to conduct the business of the Senate, and we will do so with dignity and respect for everyone. So in getting started today, I would like to have Senator McEwen, can you please present your bill?
Thank you very much, Madam Chair, and I'm delighted to join you this morning. Thank you for hearing Senate File 1. Madam Chair, members, and fellow Minnesotans, this past summer, in June 2022, the U.S. Supreme Court overturned the 1973 landmark case Roe v. Wade, eliminating the federal right to abortion. This decision was a shattering blow to the right to access abortion in the United States, leaving even more people struggling to access the essential health care they need. The overturning of Roe v. Wade made the United States a global outlier. In the last 3 decades, dozens of countries have acted to expand abortion access, but the U.S. uniquely has gone backwards, taking away rights rather than expanding them. But here in Minnesota, we believe that people should be free to make their own reproductive health care decisions safely and without interference from government. The importance of this issue to our people, our families, and our communities was demonstrated this past election when Minnesotans came out to elect pro-reproductive freedom majorities and sent us to the Capitol with a strong message to protect these values, to protect our reproductive rights and freedoms. In Minnesota, we are fortunate. We already have our own state version of Roe v. Wade called Doe v. Gomez, which establishes that Minnesotans have a right to abortion care under our state constitution. However, as we know from this past year's experience, court decisions are only as strong as the judges that uphold them. What happened at the federal level could happen here too. We shouldn't have to worry that our basic, fundamental health care rights might be decimated by a future rogue court. Therefore, we must act now to ensure that our reproductive rights and freedoms are properly recognized and codified into state statute. Senate File 1, the Protect Reproductive Options, or PRO Act, establishes the fundamental right of Minnesotans to make individual decisions about their own reproductive health care, including contraception, pregnancy, and abortion. Under this bill, reproductive health care decisions will be entrusted to patients and their doctors and healthcare providers. The PRO Act prevents politicians from interfering with a person's fundamental right to make these very personal decisions. The PRO Act is a short, simple bill that will protect Minnesotans' reproductive freedoms and codify our rights into law. So I'll just very briefly go through the content of the bill. Subdivision 1 establishes the title, Protect Reproductive Options Act. Subdivision 2 defines reproductive health care. This includes, but is not limited to, contraception, sterilization, preconception care, maternity care, family planning and fertility services, and counseling regarding reproductive health care. Subdivision 3 establishes the fundamental right to reproductive health care. Subdivision 4 recognizes that this fundamental right to reproductive health care is established within the Minnesota Constitution. And Subdivision 5 prohibits local units of government from regulating an individual's ability to exercise these fundamental rights more restrictively than is set forth in this bill. And now, Madam Chair, as part of our presentation of the bill, I would like to introduce Dr. Siri Fiebiger, followed by testifiers Tibby Amundson, Samantha Alsadi, and Hannah Stein. And then I believe also we're expecting Commissioner Cunningham from the Minnesota Department of Health also to come as part of the presentation.
Thank you, Senator McEwen. Would Dr. Siri Fiebiger please come to the table? Thank you. And the other testifiers, if you can be ready to approach the table when Dr. Fiebiger has finished. Welcome to the committee. Please state your name for the record and begin your testimony.
I'm Dr. Siri Fiebiger, and I'm an obstetrician gynecologist practicing here in Minneapolis, St. Paul. I served on the board of directors for Planned Parenthood North Central States, and I currently serve as the chair of the Minnesota section of the American College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists. For over 30 years, I've cared for high-risk and complicated pregnancies, which not infrequently includes abortion care. I've witnessed my patients carefully assess their unique situations, honoring their commitments to their children, to their partners, and to themselves. And I then supported their heart-grounded decisions whether or not to continue a pregnancy. As a doctor, I know my patients will come from all walks of life. Some are already parents, some are scared. Many have questions, and every single one of them is unique. Many are grieving the loss of the ideal pregnancy, like my recent patient who drove 9 hours to see us because none of her local doctors could take care of her, even though she was given a lethal fetal diagnosis. Abortion is essential health care. States with strong access to abortion have lower maternal death rates, which is a crisis in this country. They have lower infant death rates. They have improved prenatal care access, and they have higher contraception uptake. Since the overturning of Roe v. Wade, Planned Parenthood North Central States has seen a 13% increase in patients coming from outside the region for abortion care, and a 40% increase in second trimester abortions, which previously had been rare. People forced to travel to Minnesota for abortion care are coming from the 18 states who have bans or near total bans. Minnesota's abortion access is critical right now. We need the PRO Act passed so that Minnesotans and patients across the country know that they will remain welcome here. Minnesota must reassure them that our commitment to their reproductive rights and health care will not change. And we healthcare providers also need that reassurance that our medical and ethical obligations to care for our patients will not ever be restricted by politics. Minnesotans deserve to make their own deeply personal healthcare decisions based on science and with experts, without politicians or judges. By passing the Protect Reproductive Options Act and codifying reproductive rights into state law, Minnesota will become a national leader for reproductive freedom and equity and improve public health overall. Passing the PRO Act would be a historic step that makes me hopeful for the future of Minnesota, knowing that my granddaughters and their peers will be ensured the bodily autonomy and freedom they deserve. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Fieber. I have next on my list Hannah Stein. Is Hannah present? Next I have on the list Tippy Amundsen. And I'm sorry, I forgot one of the administrative duties here. Can testifiers please make sure that you sign in to the sheet that's on the table? And that's true for any of you who will be testifying from the public. Please make sure you sign in. Thank you. And Ms. Amundsen, welcome to the committee, and please state your name for the record and begin.
Good morning. My name is Tippy Amundsen. I am
And
from Brooklyn Park.
I'm sorry, I'm just going to ask you to pull the microphone close because it, I'm sorry. Thank you.
My name is Tippy Amundsen, and I'm from Brooklyn Park. I came today to share my story with you. I have all of my children here today. And I don't just mean here at the Capitol at 8:15 on a Tuesday morning, but I mean like here, walking around with perfectly formed toes and complete circulatory systems and spunky personalities. I can't really put into words the relief and the joy that that gives me. Some of you have heard my story before, but for those who haven't, when I was 20 weeks pregnant with my first baby, we found out that our little boy wasn't going to be able to grow the way he should. He wasn't securely attached to my placenta, and my placenta was growing into my uterus. It is the single darkest day of my life. We needed an abortion to save my uterus, and we had very little time to process all that was happening. We were required to do many unnecessary tasks, and that added to our grief and the mental load that we were already experiencing. It wasn't easy to find an abortion when we needed one, but I was able to get one, and it saved my uterus, and ultimately I was able to complete my family. And I'm here today to hopefully help secure those options for all Minnesotans, whether that includes becoming a parent or not. I hope that I don't have to share my abortion story again. I hope no Minnesotan has to share their abortion story again. I hope that we can finally advance to a society that gives patients and their doctors the right to make the best decision for them without any lawmaker putting parameters on those choices. So please pass the PRO Act for me and my family and for all the other mothers. Thank you for the time, and I apologize in advance, but we're going to take all of us and head out. So if we make a little extra noise on the way, I'm sorry. But thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Amundsen. Next, I have on the list Samantha Alsadi.
Good morning.
Good morning, and please welcome to the committee, and please state your name for the record.
Thank you. My name is Samantha Alsadi, and I am from Eagan, Minnesota. Among other things, I am an attorney, an advocate, and a sexual assault survivor. I wanted to briefly share with you all why it is crucial for Minnesota to create a statutory right to abortion access and not leave my rights to my own body and everyone else's rights to their own body in the hands of anyone else but themselves. To be honest, I am deeply disappointed that I even have to be here discussing this topic with each of you today. It is truly dehumanizing to have to ask Minnesota's elected officials, all of whom which I have never met before, to support my right to control what happens with my body. I should not have to ask for this. Nevertheless, I am here asking all of you to do just that because I know just how dangerous it would be for Minnesota to leave the right to choose whether or not to have an abortion, our bodily autonomy rights, in the hands of whomever happens to sit on the Minnesota Supreme Court bench. Without a statutory protection, if for whatever reason the Minnesota Supreme Court decides to overturn Doe v. Gomez, Our children and teenagers who are victims of rape, just like I was 20 years ago, may be forced to carry a fetus from their rapist to terms. We are already seeing this happen in other states, and it's absolutely horrific. And let me be very clear. We should not have to have our bodily autonomy taken from us in disgusting acts of sexual assault in order to be granted our rights to our own body. No one, whether it be a clump of cells, a fetus, or a born person, has the right to force me to use my body, my reproductive organs, or even my blood for their survival. I ask you all to please protect our rights and support the PRO Act. Thank you.
Thank you for providing your testimony. And is Commissioner Cunningham? Welcome to the committee.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Brooke Cunningham, the new Commissioner of Health. Chair Wicklund, members of the committee, thank you for the opportunity to speak with you today. Before I speak on the bill before you this morning, I'd like to spend just a few minutes telling you a bit about myself. I also know I'll be back tomorrow morning to give you a broader overview of the agency's work. Prior to becoming the Commissioner of Health, I served as the Assistant Commissioner of the new Health Equity Bureau in the Minnesota Department of Health. In terms of my background, I'm trained as a general internist, a sociologist, and prior to coming to the Department of Health was working as a clinician scientist at the University of Minnesota Medical School. I still practice as a primary care provider at the Kook Clinic, the Community University Healthcare Clinic, which serves a diverse patient population and is a federally qualified healthcare center. And I've lived in Minnesota for now what is going on a decade. And part of what kept me here was the willingness to recognize and the appetite to address health inequities. My new role as Health Commissioner is an exciting opportunity to work with you all and with partners around the state and the country. We will have more opportunities to get to know each other over the week ahead, but I appreciate the opportunity to be here right away to discuss the issue addressed in Senator McEwen's bill. As Commissioner of Health, my background as a physician and an equity proponent, I want to say very clearly that reproductive care is health care. And I just want to share with you a couple of quotes for the National Birth Equity Collaborative published in JAMA, one of our leading medical journals, last November. They define reproductive justice as the human right to maintain personal bodily autonomy, have children, not to have children, and to parent the children we have in safe and sustainable communities. Birth equity cannot be achieved without full bodily autonomy for all people and ensuring access to full spectrum reproductive health care services, including contraception, infertility treatment, and abortion care. When people are empowered to make decisions about their own health care, they have better health outcomes, and it is the responsibility of clinicians, healthcare researchers, and policymakers to support this cause. So I just wanted to share those couple of quotes from my leading medical journal with you all today. And as a physician, and an equity proponent, I also want to say the one thing that I know deeply is that we have to trust people to make the best decisions for their bodies, their health, and their well-being. And as we talk about mental health in this country, we must recognize that feeling stuck, like you don't have a choice, creates an intense level of despair. My experiences also tell me that restraining reproductive freedom tends to impact members of disadvantaged communities the most, because it's not just about choice, it's also about access. Access to high-quality sex education, time off and transportation to go to the doctor to discuss reproductive options, an experience in the doctor's office where you are respected and listened to, enough money to afford the copay of the visit and for prescription contraceptions. Unfortunately, creating more barriers to exercise choice makes it tough for folks in Minnesota, for people in this room, and particularly tough for those Minnesotans who are not present here today in rooms like these. Constraining reproductive choice and access will worsen health disparities, especially maternal and child health disparities. Minnesota already has some of the worst disparities in the country on a number of metrics, and we need to focus on lifting up the health of all and avoiding any steps that make those disparities worse. Thank you for your time. I'll see you tomorrow as well.
Thank you very much for your testimony. Senator McEwen, does that conclude your testifiers?
Yes, Madam Chair, thank you.
Thank you. The next part of our agenda, we will move to testifiers who have signed up from the public. We are going to have the testifiers we have signed up to testify remotely do so first. We will consistently through this session, I'm planning that we will make opportunities for remote testimony at each hearing that it makes sense, and I hope that we find that it's a way that we can encourage more participation from people from around the state to be able to come and testify before our committee. I will say that we have, one configuration that we're using today with Zoom, and I believe that it will stay pretty much the same, but if you notice changes over time, it's because all the technical settings that we're using today may change as we get to be more proficient and get things fully set up in the Senate. So I would like to ask the testifiers who are participating by Zoom to make sure that you turn your camera on and unmute when it is your turn. We do have an order for the 6 testifiers who are present testifying remotely. The first testifier we have today is Bishop Chad Zielinski. And I see that you have turned your camera on and now you're unmuted. And I should have also said the testimony will be limited to 2 minutes. We will be timing testimony. And when the timer goes off, that is your signal to end your testimony. If you haven't finished your thought, please finish your thought. But if you continue, I will continue to ask you to stop. We need to respect the time, the 2-minute time limit to get through all of the testimony that we have. Thank you, and welcome to the committee. Bishop Zielinski, please begin your testimony.
Madam Chair and members of the committee, I'm Chad Zielinski, Bishop of the Catholic Diocese of New Ulm, testifying today on behalf of my brother bishops of the Minnesota Catholic Conference and the thousands of rural farming families of the Diocese of New Ulm to urge you to vote no on Senate File 1. I'm the new kid on the block as I recently moved from Alaska. After retiring as an Air Force chaplain of 21 years, for the past 8 years, I had the honor to travel to 37 remote villages, walking with my native Alaskan brothers and sisters and witnessing firsthand their centuries-held way of living intimately close to nature and thanking the Creator for everything, for a new family member. Seeing all of creation as a sacred gift will be forever etched in my heart, mind, and soul. As I make my way around the 15 counties of the Diocese of New Ulm, visiting with numerous farming families, I see an extremely similar connectedness to the earth and our Creator. Their livelihood is profoundly dependent on the ebb and flow of the cycles of agriculture and farm animals providing new life. This living close to the earth and respecting creation from the hands of the Creator has been passed along for many generations. It's in their DNA. The bill reflects a complete denial of the humanity of the unborn child, their right to live, and the state's interest in protecting nascent human life. The bill puts Minnesota out of step with most of the world in that regard. And as you will hear from others, will also put women's health and safety in jeopardy. Furthermore, the good people of these rural counties, whatever their religion, are prevented by Subdivision 5 of this bill from keeping abortion providers, including mobile ones such as Just the Pill, from operating in their communities. Please protect a democratic process reflecting a genuine pluralism of values among the people of our state. Again, please vote no. I thank you for your time and Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Bishop Zielinski. Next, the testifier will be Bena Abraham.
Good morning, chairs and members of the committee. Excuse me, my name is Bena Abraham. Excuse me, and I'm here to speak in support of Senate File 1. I am the campaign director of Unrestrict Minnesota. Unrestrict Minnesota is a multiracial coalition that is made up of healthcare, clinics, abortion funds, practical support groups, LGBTQ advocacy groups, faith communities, organizers, lawyers, doulas, and more. Our broad coalition represents the vast majority of Minnesotans that are supportive of abortion rights. In 2019, Gender Justice filed a lawsuit challenging abortion restrictions in the state, and last July, a judge determined these restrictions were unconstitutional and permanently blocked their enforcement. This included a medically inaccurate script that doctors are required to read, a second medically unnecessary appointment for patients seeking abortion care, a ban on advanced practice clinicians prescribing abortion medication, and more. The lifting of these restrictions had an immediate positive impact on providers, Minnesotans seeking abortion, and people from the upper Midwest and across the country who have lost their meaningful access to reproductive health care. But we should not have to go to court to protect our constitutional rights. Senate File 1 is an important first step in protecting these rights within our law books, a right that is widely supported by Minnesotans across the state. Last month, we commissioned a poll of Minnesota voters. Almost 2/3 of voters want laws that support rights and abortion and access to abortion, including the right to reproductive freedom included in Senate File 1. A majority of Minnesotans also support other policies ensuring that the right to abortion is made real through meaningful efforts to expand abortion access, including Medicaid funding for abortion and legal protections for providers and patients from out of state seeking abortion care in Minnesota. As attacks on access to safe, legal, and essential reproductive health care sweep through the country, we have a golden opportunity to protect rights and advance reproductive freedom in our state. We urge you to pass Senate File 1 and continue the vital work of making abortion access accessible to all Minnesotans. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your testimony. Next, we have Dr. Kathy Coberman.
Morning. I'm Chair and members of
Dr. Coberman, can you turn your volume up a little bit, or if it's possible, or get closer to your microphone?
Is this better?
I think that's good. I mean, we can hear you a little better.
Okay. I'm opposed to the PRO Act.
I'm sorry, Dr. Coberman. We cannot hear you well enough, I mean, to be able to, and I think we have our settings where the volume is up as high as we can.
Is this better?
You can try one more time.
Okay.
There,
I'm a board certified. Okay, I'm a board certified family practice physician since 2002. I care for people from the beginning of life to the end of life. When one of my patients is pregnant and her test is positive, it's a joyful occasion. My practice will grow by one or maybe more members. Reproduction means to produce a new individual or a new individuals of the same species, not to destroy life, manipulate life, or impede it from beginning or continuing on. Even at later stages of development, when a child can survive outside of the womb, his mother's decision to kill him in what is known as late-term abortion creates a huge conflict. As a physician, our concern is for both patients, for both mother and child. In the bill, it refers to autonomous decision-making, ignoring the reality that when a minor young woman is pregnant, she still requires parental consent for going to the dentist or getting a flu shot. Yet she would be allowed to independently make life and death decisions alone. I'm concerned how this also would affect the conscience rights of healthcare providers whose deep convictions prevent them from providing or referring for many of the listed services. They understand the significant harms that these so-called reproductive health care services can cause women, as well as the effects on their families. I have seen women in my clinic who were harmed by abortion, by infections, by bleeding, and abandoned by the provider who performed.
Thank you, Dr. Coberman. Can you please kind of wrap up your thoughts, please? Okay. Thank you for testifying and for adjusting. We did allow some extra time for you because of the technical difficulties. Next, we have Shelly Claris, and I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and the committee for hearing me today. I'm here to speak against SF1. My name is Shelly Claris from Montgomery, Minnesota, and I'm here to ask for common sense to prevail. When I was 31, I found myself alone raising 2 small boys. I had clinical depression and was pregnant. The biodonor insisted I abort the baby. I was alone, scared, and conflicted about an abortion. I tried. At Planned Parenthood, they did my intake and then took me for my exam. I was an emotional mess, bawling, and the staff and doctors were very cold. I left before the procedure and went directly to see my psychologist. And in a 50-minute session, I was able to make a decision I could live with. I kept my baby, and it was incredibly hard. But today, she's has a beautiful family, and she operates a family daycare in a small town in Minnesota. Society looks to our laws and lawmakers to set boundaries. Boundaries offer security and safety. The bill before us has no such boundaries. Rather, it appears as a free-for-all in the name of women's reproductive rights. It is important when looking at giving individuals rights that we maintain common sense and do not go so far that we hurt the rights of others. It is against the law to willfully take a life, yet this bill proposes willfully killing a fetus, which at 24 weeks gestation has a 60% chance of survival, and at 28 weeks, a 90% chance. It is unconscionable to refuse to recognize a fetus as a life at some point in their development. Abortion clinics do not have to be medically licensed, and an abortion is a medically invasive procedure. Why are they not licensed? There are no mental health services available to women through the clinics, and the report of the American Psychological Association Task Force on Mental Health and Abortion states better screening can identify those who are at greater risk of being impacted by grief and other mental health issues.
Thank you, Ms. Claris. Please conclude your thoughts.
In conclusion, this bill gives women unlimited reproductive rights without equal access or proper education, safe medical support, or adequate mental health support. Every life matters. I thank you, Chair, Madam, and committee members.
Thank you, Ms. Claris. Next, I have Dr. Peter Daly.
Yes, hi, thank you. Dr. Peter Daly, I'm a practicing surgeon in the state of Minnesota for 30 years and the past president of the Catholic Medical Association of Minnesota and represent this group. We oppose this bill because this bill discusses autonomous decisions to obtain an abortion or to use or refuse reproductive health care. No human being has the right to exercise their autonomous decision to use health care if in doing so it's at the expense of another human being's death. A mother's reproductive health care rights do not supersede the right to life of the separate human being living in her womb. An embryo, a fetus, a preborn baby, all terms used to describe a genetically distinct separate human being, separate from the mother. I have a daughter who has a son, my grandson, who's going to be 3 years old this month, was 21 weeks gestation when he developed a problem that required in utero surgery. He had his own separate labs drawn. He had his own separate medical chart. It was a separate live human being that did well and had life-saving surgery. I don't want you to claim that you cannot legislate morality. That's what you all are doing today. Laws prohibiting fanticide The killing of a 10-minute or a 10-month-old baby exists because our society recognizes the immorality of killing a baby. Abortion affects the same ending of a baby's life, and it's a baby, a human being in the womb. This proposed legislation fails to recognize that right to life of this separate human being living in a womb. And it should be noted that none of the points made here and included on my written testimony make references to belief in God or religion, because it doesn't need to. This is logic. Our intense opposition to this SF1 proposed legislation relies on the same logic on which our whole legal system rests. I appreciate this opportunity to testify. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Daly. And last on the Zoom, our remote testifiers, I have Tammy Kromenacher. And I apologize if I didn't get your name correct. Please begin your testimony.
You did it perfect. Thank you. My name is Tammy Kromenacher. I use she, her pronouns. I'm the clinic director of Red River Women's Clinic in Moorhead, Minnesota. Madam Chair and members of the committee, thank you for the opportunity to provide this testimony today. I strongly urge you to support Senate File 1. Red River Women's Clinic was the only abortion provider in the state of North Dakota for over 20 years. After the fall of Roe v. Wade in June of 2022, we worked diligently to identify, locate, and purchase property just across the river in Moorhead, Minnesota, due to the looming trigger ban in North Dakota. And since August of 2022, we have been providing abortion care in our new Moorhead location. We provide safe, high-quality reproductive health care, including abortion services to patients from North Dakota, South Dakota, and northwestern Minnesota. We are members in good standing of the National Abortion Federation and maintain the highest quality standards for our practice. We undertook this difficult and arduous step of relocating to Minnesota in order to preserve abortion access to pregnant people in our region. We know firsthand the barriers and obstacles that many pregnant people face when they make the decision to terminate a pregnancy. It is well documented, most notably in the Turnaway study, that receiving an abortion does not harm the health and well-being of pregnant people, but in fact, being denied an abortion results in worse financial, health, and family outcomes, as well as increased physical violence from the partner involved in the pregnancy. The financial well-being and development of children is negatively impacted when their parents are denied abortion. States like North Dakota and South Dakota, where most of our patients come from, want to eliminate individuals' fundamental rights to their own reproductive health. Abortion is already banned in South Dakota, and it is only a matter of time before the North Dakota trigger ban goes into effect or the legislature finalizes their end game of making it impossible to provide abortion care in that state. I urge you to support this bill. Minnesota has been a leader and can cement their commitment to individuals' fundamental rights to make decisions about their own reproductive health care by passing the PRO Act. Thank you again for this opportunity to provide testimony.
Thank you. Thank you to all the remote testifiers. We will now move to in-person testimony. And I would like to have have three people come up to the table at a time so that we can move through the transition between testifiers more quickly. And also remember when you're at the table to sign in as well. So the first three testifiers that we have are Dr. Stephen Calvin, Pastor Andrew Isker, and Rowan Larson. And Dr. Stephen Calvin, when you're ready, please proceed with your testimony. Please state your name for the record when you begin. Thank you.
Sure. Madam Chair and members of the committee, my name is Steve Calvin. I'm a board-certified physician specializing in OBGYN and the subspecialty of maternal fetal medicine. I'm also an appointed member of the U.S. HHS Secretary's Advisory Committee on Infant and Maternal Mortality. I speak today in opposition to Senate File 1, fully understanding the complexity of this issue. I've cared for women and their babies during thousands of pregnancies. Happily, most are uncomplicated and end with a healthy mother and baby, but complications can arise that threaten the life of mothers and require medical intervention. Often this still leads to a happy outcome On rare occasions, situations occur that require the option of ending a pregnancy. In a handful of tragic instances where a mother's life was in danger, I have provided care that tragically ended the life of a pre-viable baby. I do know the reality of abortion. In life-threatening situations, Minnesota women are already able to make informed decisions without interference, but what does this legislation propose? Senate File 1 will prohibit gestational age limits on abortion and will make Minnesota an extreme international outlier. The majority of EU countries, including Germany and France, limit abortions on request to less than 12 weeks. According to 2021 MDH data, more than 1,000 abortions were done in Minnesota beyond 12 weeks, 500 were done between 16 and 24, and the majority did not have medical indications. Senate File 1 is deceptively straightforward, but it is very problematic. I believe it will limit the conscience rights of providers. It will also interfere with the provision of resource options such as perinatal hospice care, and will limit prenatal information regarding the availability of care and support for individuals with Down syndrome. Two of my physician colleagues are members of this committee. I respect them but disagree with their promotion of this bill. There's much that we can all agree on to improve maternal and child health in Minnesota. The expansion of access to culturally sensitive support with midwives and doulas will improve care and will address persistent racial outcome disparities. Unfortunately, this bill's focus is not in that direction. It's clearly designed to prohibit any regulation of abortion, a position that the majority of Minnesotans do not support.
Thank you.
Thank you for your attention.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Calvin. Second, Pastor Andrew Isker, please state your name for the record and proceed with your testimony.
Good morning. My name is Reverend Andrew Isker. I'm the pastor of 4th Street Evangelical Church in Waseca, Minnesota. I come to you in the name of the Lord Jesus Christ. And as a minister of the Lord Jesus Christ, who is called to proclaim the kingship of Jesus Christ over this body and over all the nations of the world and every kingdom of the world, I have a duty to oppose Senate File 1. Woe unto you who would use the power of the sword that has been granted to you by Almighty God to defend the murderers of children. From Psalm 94, O God, to whom vengeance belongs, O God, to whom vengeance belongs, shine forth. Rise up, O judge of the earth, render punishment to the proud. Lord, how long will the wicked triumph? They utter speech and speak insolent things. All the workers of iniquity boast in themselves. They break in pieces your people, O Lord, and afflict your heritage. They slay the widow and the fatherless, and stranger, and murder the fatherless. Yet they say, the Lord does not see, nor does the God of Jacob understand. You may think you have triumphed over him because you won an election, but God is not mocked. By supporting this bill, you are sealing yourselves and our state for the wrath that is to come. The blood of children is on your hands, and it cries out for vengeance from a just and righteous God. Throw yourself upon the mercy of Jesus Christ, repent today, and vote no on this bill. May God have mercy upon you and upon the state of Minnesota. Amen.
Thank you. There will be no responses from the audience to testimony. And now, please, Rowan Larson, would you please proceed with your testimony? State your name for the record.
My name is Rowan Larson. My legal name is Brian, though, in case that needs to be stated. Good morning to you all, committee and Madam Chair. I am a proud resident of the city of Winona, and I come to you today as a representative of Winona's Lutheran Campus Center. I did not come here to speak for God, but rather as the older sibling of a young woman living in a state where abortion is banned. Everybody deserves the right to decide when to become a parent, the right to make informed decisions regarding their health, and the right to do what is best for their current family. The passage of Senate File 1 would uphold this right by providing access to crucial reproductive care for Minnesotans, Wisconsinites, Iowans, and Dakotans alike. I urge you all to reject those who claim to speak God's opinion, as the God I know is wisdom and love, all things that the Christian nationalist movement, both inside and outside of this room, seem to unfortunately lack. Additionally, I urge you all to vote with the understanding that the proposed amendments to this bill that aim to impose needless regulations upon abortion providers are not based in science, but rather willful ignorance. Tactics such as requiring 8-foot wide hallways, hospitalizations of parents, unnecessary ultrasounds, and parental notification have all been used in states such as Texas, Mississippi, and Oklahoma to justify the denial of care and needless closure of clinics in the name of safety. If you do plan to vote yes regarding these amendments, I ask you, which is more dangerous, being prepared for a very rare complication or the mass psychological harm that will come to generations of young women that grow up in this country knowing that they do not have the right to bodily autonomy? Please vote today to support the PRO Act without amendment. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you for your testimony. And now I'd like to ask the next three testifiers to come to the table. Michelle Evan, Alicia Olson, and I apologize if I mispronounce your name, please correct me, and Nancy Kielbasa. And Michelle Evan, when you're ready, please proceed with your testimony. And please state your name for the record when you begin.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Michelle Evan, and I am the Political Director of Minnesota Right to Life. Last Thursday, I attended the first hearing of House File 1, otherwise known as the Protect Reproductive Options Act. All I heard in that meeting was a lot of nonsense and political doublespeak. And sadly, we are hearing the same thing here today. The Protect Reproductive Options Act is a sham. The title itself is a ruse. While on the surface it may sound like a bill that will help Minnesotans, it will not. It is cover for the most aggressive and murderous legislation ever submitted in the state of Minnesota. This bill removes all limitations on abortions in Minnesota. If this bill passes, women will have the legal right to murder their babies moments before birth. A child at the age of 13 can kill her baby without mom and dad's knowledge. The only people that will benefit from this bill passing will be the pro-death politicians and bloodthirsty Planned Parenthood. We are asking you to protect the lives of the unborn. Vote no on this extreme pro-death legislation. Minnesota Right to Life and the pro-life community will never forget the representatives who vote yes on this bill. Thank you.
Thank you. And now, Alicia Olson, please state your name for the record and begin.
My name is Alicia Olson. Good morning, I'm Alicia. I'm here today on behalf of Students for Life Action and Students for Life of America, and I'm asking you today to oppose the PRO Act. My brother was born at 23 weeks gestation, and he was the size of an unsharpened wooden pencil. His biological mother had a late-term abortion appointment scheduled, but did not make it due to secondary health issues. She was rushed to a hospital where the life-saving care of the doctors saved both her life and my brother's life. Today, my brother is 16 years old, and he's thriving. He was brought into our family through adoption, through opportunity, something this bill does not give children. Not only does allowing abortion cut the future of a child short, but allowing to do so late in pregnancy is cruel, as we know that babies can feel pain as early as 20 weeks gestation. I ask you, when was the last time an abortion vendor supplied someone with a free pregnancy test, an ultrasound, material assistance? When has the abortion industry given women a hand up without asking for a hand out? I'm asking you as a young Minnesotan, as a woman, to vote no to protect women, to protect families, and to give children a chance and a future. Thank you.
Thank you. And now moving to Nancy Kielbasa.
Thank you.
And please state your name for the record.
Nancy Kielbasa, and I am here to ask you to oppose this bill and not pass it. I am a Catholic and a follower of Jesus Christ. I'm a wife and a mother, and for my job during the day. I work for a maternity home in St. Paul called Philomena House, where we house pregnant women. And I also am the director of a nonprofit where we intercept women who are searching for abortions, and we just ask them, is there anything we can do to help you so you don't feel like abortion is your only choice? And surprisingly, 1 out of 5 women say, yes, I need a job, I need a car, I need a place to live. And we walk alongside them as sisters, and we've given people cars and helped them with the rent for apartment, found them jobs, whatever we can do. And we stay in touch with them. So like as a sister, you don't just leave after 1 year. So today I have come to share a story with you. There is a young girl who was hiding her pregnancy from her mom. And she thought once she got into the 3rd trimester that it would be okay for her mom to see she was pregnant, because by then it's way too late to get an abortion, she's thinking. She knew her mother was going to be very, very upset. And what mother wouldn't be? Your 16-year-old daughter is pregnant. It's very sad. We get that. So this mom called looking for help for an abortion, and she found my website, and I asked, can I meet with you? And so we met for lunch, and I just said to the mom, I'm like, is there anything I can do to help you so you don't get an abortion for your daughter? And she's like, no, our mind is made up. And so clearly it wasn't legal in Minnesota for her to get an abortion, but she was gonna be driving to Colorado with her daughter to get a late-term abortion there. And when the mom went to get some food, I just like turned to the daughter and I'm like, you know.
Ms. Kielbasa, please conclude your story.
Well, so the bottom of the end of the story is this poor girl was taken by her mom to Colorado, ended up getting an abortion when she thought it was safe to let her mom know that she was pregnant, and it wasn't safe. So we're taking away the tool for women to stay pregnant later. All right, thank you.
And now the next testifier group, Gloria Perez, Anne Marie Cosgrove, and Jenna Shabert.
Good morning, Chair Wicklund and committee. Thank you for this opportunity to testify in support of Senate File 1. For the record, my name is Gloria Bettis, and I'm the president and CEO of the Women's Foundation of Minnesota. For 40 years, the Women's Foundation has invested more than $45 million in organizations across the state, seeing and hearing from communities on the ground the realities that women, girls, and families face, advancing policies and advocating for them. Women are at the center of families. They are often the primary caretakers of their households. We know that when women have access to safe and affordable reproductive services, they can lead healthier, more prosperous lives. Access to reproductive health care creates economic opportunities, including the ability to fulfill educational dreams, start a business, and grow a career. Without it, women cannot make decisions that are in the best interest of their children, their families, and themselves. Research on economic disparities show that families thrive when women and girls are healthy and well. Access to reproductive health care is a public health issue with life and death consequences. Research on maternal health shows that people most affected by lack of care, Black, Indigenous, refugees and immigrants, rural and people with lower incomes, are at greater risk of death from pregnancy. Our research with the Center on Women, Gender and Public Policy at the University of Minnesota's Humphrey School shows that Native American women are 4 times more likely, and Black women are 2.3 times more likely to die of pregnancy or childbirth-related causes than white women in our state. Tragically, 60% of those deaths are completely preventable. Access to reproductive health care is about more than just individual autonomy. It also supports community stability. It allows individuals to decide when and if the time is right to start a family, how to care for the children they have, or whether to have children at all, among other important life decisions. Living a safe life in Minnesota includes all forms of reproductive care, and we urge you to act on this file. Thank you.
Thank you. And now, Anne Marie Cosgrove.
Yeah, hi, I'm Anne Marie Cosgrove. I am not in favor of this bill. I had an abortion in 1983. Had the abortion never been legal, I would never have sought out an illegal abortion. I suffered greatly for years after having the abortion with drug use, depression, no self-worth, and wishing God would take my life. I was less of who I had been. I went through years of typical talk therapy, and at the end of 3 years, the therapist threw up her hands and told me I was going to have to learn to live with it. I replied, how does someone learn to live with murdering their own child? She had no answer for me. Since then, over the years, I've received healing and forgiveness. It's a lot of work. The latest wound I've had to heal from has been never being a grandmother. Years after taking my baby's life through the means of a legal abortion, I had a miscarriage. Never able to get pregnant again. Today, as my friends are showing off pictures of their grandbabies, I weep at the fact that I will never hold my grandchild. I will never hear, I love you, Grandma. Legal abortion took that away from me, not an illegal abortion. Abortion, whether legal or illegal, takes lives and destroys families. Since 1973, over 60 million unborn babies have lost their lives. For years, the Guttmacher Institute, the research arm of Planned Parenthood, has stood by the statistic by the time a woman is 45 years old, 1 out of 3 will have an abortion, wanting us to believe abortion is a woman's everyday experience, as if having a tooth extracted. Today, abortion rate is down. Once a woman or girl has an abortion, chances are she will have another within a year. It becomes a vicious cycle. Legal abortion is big money business. I've known plenty of women who have had 3, 4, 5, and up to 11. One young woman had 9 abortions, all in her second trimester. Drugs and alcohol uses go up, suicide and attempts go up, depression, anxiety goes up, 90% of the relationships that created the baby, they abort the end.
please.
Okay, so let me just finish with this.
No, I'm sorry that you've already gone over the time.
What's the difference between 1 abortion and 10?
Ms. Cosgrove.
9 more dead babies.
Please
What's
end
the
your
difference between
testimony
a
at this time
10-week-old
so we have
unborn baby and
chance
a
for
ready
all
to be delivered baby?
testifiers
Things
to
are
be able to
just bigger.
testify.
Thank you.
Ms. Jenna Shabert.
Hello, and thank you for having me. My name is Jenna Shabert. I am a member of the LGBTQ community, a victim of sexual assault, and an anti-abortion activist. I don't believe these things are mutually exclusive, but I do hope I help express even a fraction of the diversity we have in the pro-life movement. I am here to urge a no vote for the deceptively named Protect Reproductive Options Act. I personally believe that the tenets of reproductive justice are great in theory, but that they cannot ethically be used to justify abortion. These tenets are generally the right to have children, the right to not have children, and the right to raise children in a safe and healthy environment. However, abortion should not be included in this second tenet, as by the time one is pregnant, they already have a child. The right to bodily autonomy is incredibly important, but one's right to bodily autonomy should never infringe on another's right to life. This leads to the central question of the abortion debate. What are the preborn? In all of my time as an anti-abortion activist, I have yet to hear a compelling case for personhood that includes all born humans but does not include preborn humans. I think the only logical way to affirm equal rights is to say that all humans, born and preborn, have an equal right to be protected from violence. Again, bodily autonomy is very important, but I don't think bodily autonomy gives someone the right to intentionally end the life of someone else. Science tells me that the preborn are living human beings, and philosophy and compassion tell me that all human beings have value, not based on wantedness, what they can provide for society, or some other arbitrary skill. Human persons have value because of their inherent human nature. Again, I urge a no vote for the PRO Act. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your testimony. Now we will move to Rachel Dick, Ben Dorr, and Russ Rooney. And Rachel, feel free to proceed, and then you can sign in after you finish your testimony.
Good, thank you. Good morning. My name is Rachel Dick, and I am a graduate student at the University of Minnesota. Up until this summer, I lived my entire life knowing that I was a free and equal citizen of the United States. That changed when Roe v. Wade was overturned. I was devastated to learn that my reproductive choices could so easily be given for other people to decide. I don't think I will ever get back that sense of safety and security that I had before. There are women dying of sepsis in Texas because their doctors won't treat them for a miscarriage. And that's not rhetoric, that's fact. Those stories exist out there right now. Someday that could be me. But I am here today to tell my own story. I am, at my core, an optimist, and I do best when I can focus that sadness and anger. And so after the fall of Roe, I got involved in door-knocking work to flip the Minnesota Senate. I helped elect Senator Judy Seeberger and Senator Heather Gustafson, and I almost helped elect Carrie Ray Rauer. And as a result, we finally have a pro-choice majority in Minnesota. As a 26-year-old woman, I want a lot of things. I want to finish my PhD in neuroscience and make a difference in the lives of other people, helping to discover new cures for psychiatric disorders. I want to decide when I have children, if I have children, without having to ask the state for permission. And most of all today, I want us to advance the PRO Act. This bill will make a real difference in protecting women's lives and autonomy, not just in Minnesota, but in all of the surrounding states, women who come here for abortion care. I firmly believe this is the most important work of this legislative session, and I hope you'll support this bill as it becomes law. I would like to conclude by thanking you for the time to give this testimony, and I would also like to thank all of the abortion providers and supporters who are here today for their service. I am so grateful to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Dick. Next, we have Ben Dorr. Please state your name for the record.
I'm sorry.
Please state your name for the record and begin.
Madam Chairwoman, members of the committee, my name is Ben Dorr. I'm the Executive Director for Minnesota Right to Life. I'm here today in the name of the Lord Jesus Christ to give a voice to the 10,136 babies in our state that were murdered in 2021. Using data recorded by the state, of those 10,136 executed babies, only 2% were reported for medical reasons, incest, or rape. The number one reason given by 98% of women for killing their unborn child was inconvenience. Think about that, inconvenience. So all of these comments about these extreme situations, they're simply not true. So when Planned Parenthood sits here and tells us that we need abortions to help women in extreme situations, what they're actually protecting is murder for the sake of convenience and Planned Parenthood's bottom line. With Senate File 1, there are no limitations on abortion, none whatsoever. This is absurdly extreme. To those listening, when these abortion-loving politicians tell you that they're listening to Minnesota's wishes on abortion, it's a total lie. The voters didn't say they support full-term abortions on 8-pound babies. The voters didn't say they support delivering a baby halfway, snipping its spinal cord and crushing its skull and tearing it in pieces. This is Planned Parenthood wanting to stuff money in their pockets at the expense of dead babies and pro-abortion politicians looking for campaign donations. Pro-life voters demand you vote no on Senate File 1, and Minnesota Right to Life will make sure the most vulnerable members of your caucus answer for their votes in the 2026 elections. Throw this bill in the trash where it belongs. Thank you.
Thank you. And now Mr. Russ Rooney. And I didn't say this before, but certainly if after you finish your testimony, you're free to leave the table. I didn't mean to have you expect that you had to sit there through all three. So Mr. Russ Rooney.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm speaking against Senate File Number 1 because directly attacking an innocent human being is never health care. Abortion does not heal a mother and her child. Everyone in this room started life as a single-cell human being. Your human existence started with that single cell. You went from nothing to everything with that first cell. Someday, your existence on this earth will end. I believe that when you die, your life will be judged upon the decisions you made in this life. By voting for this bill, you will have to explain why you willingly made it easier to destroy God's greatest gift, human life, right up until birth. Even if you don't believe in God, then how can you vote in favor of a law that allows for a baby to be literally torn apart in the womb? Babies can feel the pain from tortuous late-term abortions. There is no doubt that late-term abortions will result in more women being coerced into aborting their baby. Over the years, I've met and interviewed abortion survivors. Robin Sertel survived a saline abortion and will speak at our next Life Legal Minnesota dinner in Bloomington on April 15th. I hope you can attend. Meet Robin to see with your own eyes that she is a living human being and never was a choice. Abortion is lethal discrimination against our preborn brothers and sisters. Killing these nascent babies does not protect our most vulnerable and does not promote the values of diversity, equity, and inclusion. Nasophobia, the abnormal fear of nascent children, results in killing vulnerable human beings and wounding mothers, which is the exact opposite of what we like to call Minnesota nice. I'd like to finish by thanking the Madam Chair of asking everybody to be treated with respect and dignity.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for testifying. The next three testifiers, Dr. Aaron Stevens, Sherry Litz, and Tim Miller.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the committee. My name is Dr. Aaron Stevens. I'm an OBGYN physician and a member of the American College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists, otherwise known as ACOG. I'm here today to voice ACOG's strong support for Senate File 1. The ability for pregnant, capable people to decide if and when they procreate is intrinsically tied to their well-being and success in so many facets of life. Pregnancy is not a benign state. It comes with countless risks. I myself gave birth to my second daughter back in August, and despite everything being normal and uncomplicated to that point, I experienced a life-threatening postpartum hemorrhage, the #1 cause of maternal mortality worldwide. I could have died, and many do in my circumstance. No one should have to consent to risks like that against their will. Contraception fails and complications develop. Termination of pregnancy will always be an important part of reproductive health care. The United States took a huge step backward with the overturning of Roe v. Wade last year. That endangered the lives of every pregnant, capable person and their families in this country. We know that states that have the highest restrictions on reproductive rights, including abortion care, have the highest rates of maternal mortality, infant mortality, and higher suicide rates for women of reproductive age. We in Minnesota have a tremendous opportunity to take a step forward and forge our own path, to respect bodily autonomy, to protect and expand reproductive freedom, and to enrich the lives of every pregnant, capable person in the state of Minnesota. Please join me in supporting this bill. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. And now Sherry Litz.
Hi, my name is Sherry Litz. I currently live in Minnesota. I'm here today to be a voice for the unborn. Life begins at conception. This was written by pediatrician doctors in March of 2017. Definition of abortion: a deliberate termination of human pregnancy. Definition of termination: the act of bringing something or coming to an end. Definition of murder: to kill a human being, to put an end to. I am here today to be that voice for the babies that are crying out yesterday, today, and the ones tomorrow that want to live. This is a human life. You're voting to let them live or die. We give more bearing to animals than we do to human life. Remember your oath on the Bible, so help you God. Exodus 20:13, you shall not murder. This is one of 10 commandments given to Moses from God. And let me remind you that the blood of these babies will be on your hands, and you will have to answer to God for each and every baby that is murdered due to this bill. These are your sons, your daughters, your grandchildren, our inheritance, our very future of the next generation. If any of you have the least amount of godly moral sense, you must vote no before our beloved nation is destroyed by God's judgment. I pray it's not too late. And I will be here afterwards to pray for anybody that would like prayer. And if you don't know who Jesus is, I'm willing to talk to you about who the creator of life is.
Thank you for your testimony. Tim Miller.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the committee. My name is Tim Miller. I'm the Executive Director of Plan Action, a sister organization of Pro-Life Action Ministries. In all of the pro-abortion, abortion advocate testimony that I've heard here today, I've heard about a lot of rights. I've never heard about the rights of the child. I've heard the word essential several times. Is it implied that these children are non-essential? I had an OBGYN sit right next to me who has seen these children and says that they don't matter. It's real ironic that there was...
Mr. Miller, I'd caution you against impugning the motives or personality, other testifiers here today.
Madam Chair, let me get to this then. I heard multiple times black children over the last year, I heard it once here this morning, black children and indigenous children being murdered for the rights of the mother. No one talks about the relationship between the mother and the child. They somehow empower these minority people through the death of their child, and intrinsically we all know that that isn't true. I hear all the time, the words have changed, but I've heard about it's the choice of the woman. It's not the choice of the woman, it's the burden of the woman. I've heard time and time again, people that are post-abortive. And if you're post-abortive and you're watching this or you're here, know that the creator of this world does not judge you. He loves you and he wants to comfort you. Nothing in this bill does anything to promote life. Nothing in this bill promotes advancing the relationship. Rather than voting for a bill like this, I think that you should spend your time that lifts both lives up through adoption, through foster care, through proper prenatal care, rather than this bill that is essentially a death sentence to thousands of people. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you for your testimony. Wow. And our last testifier is Francis Teberg. Welcome to the committee, and please state your name for the record.
Hi, my name is Frankie Teberg. Okay. Thank you, Chair Wickland and the committee for hearing my testimony. My name is Frankie Teberg. I left my home at Duluth at 5 a.m. this morning to share my support for Senate File 1, the PRO Act. Abortions are a necessary part of reproductive health care, and it is essential that we assure Minnesota remains a state where everyone has access to safe and legal abortion. I'm a clinic escort at the only abortion provider in northern Minnesota. We walk patients to the door of the clinic, shielding them from the disgusting harassment of anti-choice extremists. We have treated patients from all walks of life, from mothers with the kids they already have in tow, to middle school aged children accompanied by their parents. What a reported 99% of abortion patients have in common is the feeling of relief post-procedure, not regret, even 5 years later. And in the case of my own abortion, enabled me to more easily leave a physically abusive and violent partner. That day, I did choose life, my life. The PRO Act is the first step towards protecting and expanding abortion access in this state. Please support this bill without any amendments that aim to punish people seeking or performing abortions. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your testimony. I'm sorry, we have one more testifier, and I have first name Brenda, and please come forward. Thank you. Welcome to the committee. Please state your name for the record.
Good morning, Chair Wickland and members. For the record, my name is Brenda Quay. I'm from Edina, and I'm the owner and founder of Venstar LLC and New Era Development Companies. I am here today in support of Senate File 1, the Protect Reproductive Options Act. I grew up outside of Mankato, Minnesota. I have a bachelor's degree from Boston University and a master's degree from MIT in real estate development. I have owned my own company for over 25 years. I'm the very proud mother of 2 biracial boys and a board member of the Women's Foundation of Minnesota. I know from personal experience that abortion access is personal, medical, and necessary for families. I had an abortion due to Down syndrome in our 3rd child. It was a choice about what was best for our existing family and for my existing 2 boys. I was lucky enough to go to a hospital for my care, have my pregnancy terminated by a professional, and awake under a heated blanket. I am fully aware that others have not been so lucky. I would have preferred perfect birth control. There is no such thing. As a woman in a male-dominated field, I can tell you that women live lives that grow on many fronts simultaneously: work, family, children, aging parents. Controlling when to be pregnant and how often to be pregnant as a businesswoman is critical to managing your life and your career. And for younger generations, it's critical to Minnesota's future to protect reproductive health care, including access to abortion. My 22-year-old says his generation will choose where to live based upon abortion rights. Gen Z sees this issue as a basic human right. Gen Z is the future of business in Minnesota.
Thank you, Ms. Quay. Can you please wrap up your thoughts?
We need them in our workforce. We need their ideas for innovation and new business, and our economy needs their purchasing power. Thank you.
Thank you. That closes the public testimony portion of our hearing today. I want to thank all the testifiers for coming before us. And I also wanted to make note for members that you do have a number of letters and that have been provided to the committee in support and opposition. And I hope that you'll have a chance to review those as you think about and listen to the testimony today. Now we will move to discussion and amendments, and I have down Senator Abler. You wished to ask a question or discuss amendments?
And I thank you, Madam Chair, and I also want to, can you hear me? I also want to commend all the testifiers. I've been in office pretty long. We've been through a number of these discussions, and I understand how close this is to home for so many people. It's close to home for me. And I also appreciate that we simply don't agree on some of these things with the most sincerity possible. Anyway, so Madam Chair, I actually have 5 questions that I think will help clarify the bill based upon questions that have come up, it seems like, and my questions, and then we do have a few amendments. It's not my intention to drag this out longer than it needs to, but this is a big deal bill, and so perhaps we can get done by the end of the hour. I'm not going to try to stop that, but just to be fair, we do want to discuss this. Just appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Senator Blair. It's, I think we do have adequate time for questions and for amendment discussion, and like I said earlier, we intend to be out of the room and wrapping up at 10:45 by 10:45.
Right, okay, well, just so you know.
Thank you.
But this probably, I had the privilege to go to $21,780. This came up a lot in discussions. But anyway, so Senator McEwen or maybe the Department of Health, can you tell me under current Minnesota law how late an abortion can be done in Minnesota?
Senator McEwen, do you wish to have, I guess the Department of Health, I think they had to leave after the testimony.
Yes, Madam Chair. I can say, just have a brief response, and perhaps I know we have some professionals on the committee who might have an answer to this as well. But can you just make sure, I want to make sure I understand what you're asking, Senator. Could you ask it again, please?
Well, I'll ask it a different way. In the past, before the 2 court cases, one long time ago, one more recently, the Jane Doe, Mary Moe, and et al. Case struck down what was left of 145.412, which limited abortions to be not going past viability. Is there any other place that limits in Minnesota abortions past viability, or is it currently now an unlimited amount of time? I think it's an important question, and I'm not trying to be clever. I really don't know. I believe that there is now no longer a limit.
Thank you, Senator. I admittedly am not an expert on the answer to that question, but my understanding is that the current state of the law in Minnesota is as this bill sets forth. And as you said, I believe that the courts have found previous attempts by the legislature to place viability limits unconstitutional. That's my understanding.
All right.
Senator Abel?
And so just to, I believe that we can verify that, I mean, your bill creates fundamental rights to various things, and I'm not opposed to contraception. I'm not opposed to all the family planning stuff. It's just when we get to this point about the termination part that I get concerned, and so it seems as though this bill would create a fundamental right to an abortion at any time of pregnancy. I believe that statement is likely true, and that's not a pejorative. I believe it states the bill. Anyway, so Senator McEwen, in your opinion, when does an unborn baby become a person?
Senator McEwen?
Senator, I don't think that that's an appropriate question. I will not answer that. Thank you.
All right.
Excuse me, members of the audience are not participating in this portion of and outbursts are not appropriate. Senator Abler, did you have another question?
Well, thanks. I appreciate it. Anyway, I think it's a person for a good long time inside the mom. The individual, it talks about on line 1.14, every individual has a fundamental right to make decisions, autonomous decisions. Is there any age limit on that person's, on that individual, their right to make autonomous decisions?
Senator, thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Senator, for the question. Senator, I think that the real point of this bill is to make government neutral in these decisions. So to your question previously about when does life begin, people have different opinions about that question, and I don't, in my refusal to answer it personally, for my own personal opinion about that, I don't mean to disparage the question or the importance of the question to many people. It is a very important question for many people, that question of when life does begin. But the point of this bill is to make sure that Minnesotans are trusted to make individual decisions with their trusted healthcare providers. So that's why I feel like that the question is not appropriate to this bill. But in answer to this question that you just asked about an age limit for decisions, by law right now in Minnesota, minors can already give consent for healthcare services, including giving birth, having an abortion, receiving mental health care, substance use disorder treatment, or sexually transmitted infection treatment without notifying parents. So again, this is a restatement of the law as it exists now.
Thank you. And Madam
Senator
Chair,
Abler.
I'm not trying to create pejoratives here. I'm just, people have come forward saying they love this law, they think it's a great idea, and I'm just trying to help people understand what it is that this law would do. And there was a case with a 10-year-old young girl who was raped by her mom's boyfriend, who, under this law, wouldn't even have to tell her mom, and could just, and this, I'm just concerned about that. Anyway, so I'll go on. And so I'm curious, and this is for going forward, I don't know if anybody knows the answers to this, but by creating a fundamental right to this list of services, are we including more individuals who would be eligible for state-paid services, and therefore would there be a cost? Do you know that, Madam Chair?
Senator Abler, under the discussions that we've had, and Senator McEwen, you are free to answer the question as well. But we did discuss and determine that there would not be a cost. Senator McEwen, did you have any other additional information?
Well, that's fine, Madam Chair. I don't need to. If you think there's not, I just wanted to ask that question because whenever we open up more services to more people. And finally, and I appreciate the discussion.
Thank you.
I have a lot of respect for you as a colleague, and so the question that came up about conscience issues. And so would a Catholic hospital now have to let this person get their fundamental right to an abortion done there? Would a doctor be able to decline? Does that change under this? I don't know the answer. So is it current law, or is there some difference now that it's a fundamental right?
Senator McEwen.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Senator Abler. I likewise appreciate very much your respectful questions and the discussion. Very much, thank you. As to this question, my understanding, again, is that this is an affirmative statement putting into our statutory law what currently exists within our case law and court law framework, and that those decisions about whether a doctor does offer abortion care services or not, whether certain institutions do or not, is handled within the professional realm of medical care. That's my understanding, at least.
Thank you. Senator
So, Madam, just finally, so 145.42, I did a lot of homework last night. It talks about abortions, non-liability for refusal to perform. That isn't changed by this? Is that, just so it's legislative intent that at least somebody who doesn't want to do it, a Catholic hospital doesn't want to perform these, is not going to be liable? And maybe that needs to be clarified, but I think that's an important thing for you to state at some point along the way that that's your intent, that legislative intent is not to change a law that's not been struck down. Madam Chair, I'll stand down for now. I have some amendments later, but I'll let others converse.
Thank you, Senator Abler. Are there other questions? Senator Radke?
Thank you, Madam Chair. And likewise, I've got a few questions, and then I will follow Senator Abler with some amendments and such later, too. But for our author, the bill states that each individual has a right to use reproductive health care, including family planning and fertility services. Does family planning and fertility services include commercial surrogacy?
Senator McEwen?
So thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Senator, for the question. I do not have an answer to that. I can get one, though.
Senator Radke?
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair. It also talks about the fundamental right of an abortion or sterilization to individuals, including minors. A minor of any age has the fundamental right to an abortion or to choose sterilization. Does a minor actually have a right to be sterilized under this bill? And speaking of, extremely young, 10, 12, 13-year-olds?
Senator McEwen?
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Senator Radke. I think, as I said before, minors already have, under the current law, and this is really just a restatement of what the law currently is in Minnesota, minors do have a right to access a variety of care. They also can give birth, they can obtain abortions, they can obtain contraception, mental health services, without notifying parents or guardians, and sometimes there are excellent reasons for that. We know that most of the time minors do seek the help of their parent or guardian in making decisions that are so personal like this, but there are some times in certain circumstances, and each circumstance is unique, where they would not be safe notifying parents and where they need to seek help from other places. I mean, as to the issue of sterilization, I think the picture that you're painting of a child coming in on their own asking for a sterilization procedure seems not based, respectfully, not really based in fact, and that is not something that happens. But perhaps my colleagues who are professionals in this field have some more light to shed on this, so I would defer to their expertise if they have anything to add.
Senator Utke.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I guess just the last part of that statement is extremely concerning to me in the fact that we know that young people make sometimes bad decisions, and without having some additional help, you know, whether it's their parents, guardians, at least adults weighing in on this, we can see really bad decisions, in the case of sterilization where it's something that's permanent, harming them for life. And I would have extreme concerns over that. But I'll go on to another thing that shows up in here. When we talk about the right to reproductive health care, it includes, the term includes but is not limited to, which opens it up to everything. There are zero guardrails in this. We just opened up the floodgates, or this bill opens up the floodgates. We didn't, because there's no way I can support this, but there are no guardrails for anybody. Is that your intention?
Senator McEwen.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Senator, the intention is, as I've stated previously, to place these very personal healthcare decisions, reproductive healthcare decisions, in the hands of the individual Minnesotans and their trusted healthcare providers that are making those decisions. In terms of, it sounds like to me what you're describing is concern about the openness of the definition of what reproductive health care entails. And that's a question of law. We have many statutes in the state of Minnesota. They're interpreted by our courts, and the things that people consider to be reproductive health care in a common sense way, that's part of law. That's part of our interpretation as we move forward. The law is living. It is reflected in terms of how we interpret it and how we enforce it and our reaction to what the words on the page mean. So in answer to your question, we did want to have a clear enumeration of the pieces of reproductive health care that we felt important to enumerate. But of course, like any law, like all of the laws in the state of Minnesota, our courts interpret them, and they are, in essence, living documents to some extent.
Senator Utke.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I just have one final comment at this point and let others have a chance. And just following up on that, that's the part that's very concerning, because anytime we put something in statute, now we've set the bar, whether it's the high bar or the low bar, people will refer to this is the law. It takes out of the equation the doctor, the patient, and everybody else involved. And so that's extremely concerning, because now, you know, it's easy because we've got somebody else or something else to blame this on. So with that, I will pass to who's got additional questions. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. And next on the list, Senator Liskey, do you have a question?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have one question, since Senator Abler and Senator Utke got to a lot of my questions. The basic question is, what on this bill is protecting a patient? As I am also a healthcare provider, I like to talk about patients as patients. What is protecting my patients from an abuser forcing their will upon this abused individual from getting an abortion, or in this case, getting any type of reproductive health care? What in this statute that we're looking at right now, or proposed statute, protects that individual?
Senator McEwen.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And thank you, Senator, for your question. Again, this statute is a statement of the law as it currently is. So what we're doing is placing the empowerment and the decision back, like enshrining in our statutory law that the decisions about reproductive health care are to be made by individual Minnesotans and their health care providers. So in terms of abusive situations, if somebody is being coerced into making one decision or the other, that's horrible. That's a tragedy. But what this does, all that this law does, and it's very simple, is it places the government out of the decision making of that individual. So there are many ways that, of course, we should make sure that people in abusive situations receive the help and support they need to exit those decisions, exit those situations, to make decisions with support from their community and other people who will help them. But the place of this law is to empower individuals, including individuals in abusive situations, to be able to make decisions about their own reproductive health care without politicians or the government interfering in that decision.
Senator Liskey?
Thank you, Senator McEwen. I just want to basically make a statement saying that my number one concern is still minors, especially in this bill, because minors don't have a tendency to have a voice for themselves, and to let them make decisions without having some form of support is concerning.
Thank you. Are there other members who had questions, or? I don't see any other questions. Senator Abler, did you indicate that you do have an amendment, or do others have an amendment?
I don't mind who goes first. Senator Aki, should I go first? Okay, Madam Chair, I have four. I'll just go through my cluster here. So I'd like to move the A9, and if staff could pass out the A9 and the A16. First the A9 and then the A16, just to move it along.
Senator Abler offers the A9 amendment.
And I'll start describing it while it's being passed out. The A9 is the pain-capable idea that in 2014, I don't know if you realize I'm extreme. This is my extreme bill that I got tagged for in everywhere. This says at 20 weeks, there is some discussion about when the unborn baby can feel pain. And there's some argument in the literature, is it 20 weeks, 21, is it 24, is it 18, or whatever. But anyway, so currently in intrauterine surgeries, there's a use of anesthesia that's gaining favor, and there probably isn't time, but I do have some testimony we could take about that if you'd like, Madam Chair. But just in the interest of time, I'll just let it be assumed that that's the trend, and I didn't bring any articles about it. But anyway, so in 2014, we were trying to find a way, at least if you're going to do them, at least don't do it when the baby can feel pain. And so this amendment is from 2014 that I was a co-author of. And it says you can't do it after 20 weeks when the baby can feel pain, basically. So that's the amendment. And so I thought it was a good idea then. I actually still think it's a good idea now. And I don't really see it as an extreme position. If you look at where in the world we are, other countries that I don't consider to the right of America, Sweden, you have 18 weeks to get an abortion for any reason, and 18 to 22 weeks with permission based upon some complicating factors, and you cannot get one past 22 weeks in Sweden. In France, it was 12 weeks, but in March, they changed it to 14 weeks. And I don't consider France to be I don't know, they seem like they're more progressive than we are. Netherlands, 24 weeks you can get. England and Scotland and Wales, it's 24 weeks. And after that, there's an opportunity for life of the mother or severe disability, which I wonder what that really means. So the point being is that, and if you talk to people, a lot of people, perhaps the majority, I don't know, a lot of people think abortion should be available, and, you know, whatever. I think, I asked the question about when it has become a person. I know it becomes a life in the beginning. And I don't know if it's when it's the zygote or if it divides into two cells. There's a debate about implantation or not. I don't know. But at some point, really quick there, it's somebody, and so many pregnant mothers have hugged their little couple of cell, child and wept. Anyway, so I thought that the 20-week thing, it was just funny that was considered an extreme position. Actually, it's about the average of the world and probably even to the left of where a lot of people think abortion should be. And so I'm not going to make you vote on that, just in the interest of time and focus. What I'd like you to talk about is and I'll withdraw that one. I'd like to move the A16 amendment, which is my best effort at talking about anesthesia.
Excuse me, Senator Abler, I just want to make sure, does everybody have the A16 amendment?
All right, and I'll request a roll call on this one, Madam Chair. And so,
Roll call requested.
and if we had more time, I would call up a doctor to testify that babies feel pain. But if you'll just allow me to posit that and everybody will accept that at some point, and I don't know where, you can debate is it 20 weeks, 21 weeks. So this is my best effort to come up with a scientifically based amendment. And it says, for abortions performed after 20 weeks gestational, a physician must administer an anesthetic, analgesic, or arrange the administration of anesthetic and analgesic to eliminate or alleviate organic pain to the unborn child caused by a particular method of abortion to be performed if, and this is where I'm pretty comfortable with it, based upon the medically accurate information that's verified and supported by the weight of peer review medical research conducted in compliance with accepted scientific methods, it's determined that the unborn child at that particular gestational age may feel pain. And we also allow that the female should be discussed about what's safe for her, and she actually can decline that. So I don't want to get involved about when's the baby feel pain, but if you're going to do one and it's at the time that the baby could feel pain, could you at least, as just one minor little barrier, make sure the baby doesn't feel pain as it ends its time on Earth. So that's my amendment, Madam Chair, and stand for questions.
Thank you, Senator Abler. Senator McEwen, do you have initial response?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Again, the purpose of this bill, and I feel it's been interesting listening to some of the testimony that we have heard. The bill, the purpose of the bill is to trust Minnesotans and to trust healthcare providers to make decisions about their own individual reproductive health care choices. I trust medical professionals to do their jobs in accordance with their own professional obligations. And as such, I would ask colleagues to vote no on the A16. Thank you.
Senator Atke.
Thank you, Madam Chair. A roll call has been requested. I'd also like to request that they be recorded in the journal.
Are there 3 members who support that? Seeing 3 hands, the roll call will be recorded in the journal.
Madam Chair.
Senator Abler.
Just a closing comment. This doesn't even mess with your bill. It doesn't take away anybody's fundamental right. But I have to tell you, at some point, that person, that whatever it is inside the mom, becomes a person. Under Chapter 145.423, if there's a baby born alive as a result of an abortion, at that moment, that entity is recognized as a human person. That's Minnesota law. And so magically goes from an effort to be aborted, like the saline story at 23 weeks. At 23 weeks, that person, or that whatever pregnancy product, when it's a failed abortion, becomes a person entitled to the rights of a person. And that's the conflict I see. I have so much respect for the women in their challenging times. No, and I don't have a uterus, but I've got 44 years in practice. I've met plenty of people in challenging times, suicidal and others, post-abortion. I used to be pro-choice until I ran into in college. And this one worked at Love Lines, and she told me about women who would call in post-abortion, and they were just traumatized, and like, I began to look into it, and that's how I got to where I am now. But at least if you're not gonna, don't make the baby suffer. Anyway, I'm good, Madam Chair, thanks.
Any further discussion? Senator Morrison?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Well, I think your amendment is well-intentioned, Senator Abler. I think that we risk treading into legislating how medical care is done, and that I think is a dangerous endeavor. So I would encourage members to vote no on this. Let's let the patient and the medical provider decide the best course of action for their care.
Senator Utke, did you have further? Oh, okay. Senator Mann? All right, we will move to a vote. Ms. Haley, will you, or Ms. Ryan, please take the roll.
Chair Wicklund?
No.
Vice Chair Mann? No. Lead Utke?
Yes.
Senator Abler?
Yes.
Senator Bolden?
No.
Senator Hoffman?
No.
Senator Kupek? No. Senator Leisky?
No.
Senator Morrison?
No.
Thank you. There being 2 yes votes and 7 no votes, the motion does not prevail. The amendment is not adopted.
Madam Chair.
Senator Abler.
Thanks for the discussion. I'd like to move the A11 amendment.
Senator Abler moves the A11 amendment. The amendment will be distributed. Do you wish to?
Yeah, sure. I mean, this is maybe an easier one. I didn't think that would be so hard for people to support. But never know. So this just says if an ultrasound has been done, that the woman can be offered a chance to look at it, and they don't have to. This doesn't require an ultrasound. It just says if there's one there, and hey, do you want to see the ultrasound? Because I think, Senator McEwen, I don't think what you're trying to do is entice people to have more abortions. I think you want to make sure that they're available. And we've gone from available to a fundamental right, which actually is an expansion. But I think you have to have, and I'm not going after you, but I think the people listening here have to be impressed by the testimony about the people who have concerns about this. And they go like, my brother, I didn't know. And sometimes if you're, especially in these later term ones, they do look a lot like a human being. They have arms and legs, you can tell what gender they are, and they look kind of cute. And so it just may be that a person who's in a challenging moment would say like, no, I do want to give this a chance. And you have the freedom to not do it under your bill. But this just says if it's available, could you let them look at it? That's the amendment, and I would request a roll call and ask people to support it.
Senator Abler, request a roll call. Roll call will be performed. I'm sorry, Senator Mann, did you wish to? Actually, let me go to Senator McEwen, just make that the pattern, and then we'll go to Senator Mann.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Senator. Colleagues, people are already offered an opportunity and a chance to view ultrasounds when they're available. This is not something that's currently being denied, as I understand it. And again, this bill, the essence of this bill, is to truly place decision-making power in the hands of individuals in consultation with their trusted healthcare providers. So accordingly, I would ask you to vote no on the A11 amendment. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Mann.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I would echo what Senator McEwen said in that this is already being done, A. And B, again, I would caution members on voting for things that would legislate and put into law how healthcare providers practice medicine. So I would recommend a no vote on this amendment.
Thank you, Senator Utke.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and once again, I would like this recorded in the Journal.
Are there three hands to? All right, seeing three hands, the roll call will be recorded in the journal.
Madam Chair.
Any, Senator Abler?
Well, I'm disappointed that this isn't meant to be a hard one. And if we had more time, and I'm not going to monopolize the committee's time, but I'd ask a Planned Parenthood provider to come forward and ask and tell me that they do indeed offer the woman some anesthetic for before the abortion is provided, if it's a later term one when there is a risk that the baby can feel pain, and that they do indeed offer this as an option. Very often, you and I and others, and we pass laws because we're afraid of what people might do or what they might not do, and providing opportunities for women and men in so many settings. In these settings here, it's a particularly traumatic time. No one does this casually, and I've learned that in my 24 years. But sometimes the suggestion that just take a look at, would you like to look at this? And there's testimony, Madam Chair, about how many people have decided not to go forward once they saw what they actually were about to terminate. So, I mean, vote how you want, but I think it's our duty, I think, to provide as many opportunities to help have abortion be rare and as unnecessary as possible. I don't know that we'll ever get to the point where there's none. And you didn't see an amendment from me saying there should be none. At this point, the discussion is about a bill that actually becomes extremely inclusive. And some would say, I would even say, based upon what I was called extreme in my campaign for suggesting at 20 weeks a baby can feel pain, and we shouldn't maybe hurt that baby. This bill even goes beyond to even be more extreme. So, but we're just trying to put a few guardrails so that it can become, so that nobody comes to harm because of this. That's the oath the doctors in this committee took and the doctors in the audience. Anyway, I'll stop, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Ms. Ryan, please take the roll.
Chair Wicklund?
No.
Vice Chair Mann? No. Lead Utke?
Yes.
Senator Abler?
Yes.
Senator Bolden?
No.
Senator Hoffman?
No.
Senator Kupek?
No.
Senator Leisky?
No.
Senator Morrison?
No.
Thank you. There being 2 yes votes and 7 no votes, the motion does not prevail. The amendment is not adopted.
Madam Chair. Thank you.
Sorry.
That's worse
Senator
than usual.
Abler.
That's worse than usual for my amendments. I'm disappointed, but I have completed my amendments and my thoughts. Thank you, Madam Chair, for your kindness.
Thank you, Senator Abler. Are there others who have amendments? Senator Liskey.
I'd like to present the A2 amendment.
The A2 amendment is one of the posted amendments, so members, you have that amendment in your packet of materials.
This amendment,
And Senator Liskey, yes, please
sorry,
proceed.
Madam Chair. This amendment is a definition basically helping define what we've already put into statute, as Senator Abler already talked about, is that we have born alive individuals and we must protect the born alive. In this case, a partial birth abortion, the child is in part born alive. Therefore, this amendment would merely remedy any possible language that would counteract that statement.
Senator McEwen, do you have?
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Senator. Colleagues, I want to set the record straight about this. There is no such thing as an abortion up until birth. This amendment that we are hearing, this A2 amendment, has nothing to do with how abortion care or medicine works. As a pregnancy progresses, there are circumstances when women may need abortion care. Each situation is unique. And again, politicians and our government have no business sticking their noses into Minnesotans' personal individual medical decisions. Colleagues, I respectfully ask you to vote no on the A2 amendment.
Further discussion? Senator Liskey?
So in this case, I am concerned with that statement, as we are now saying that this child who has been partially born now has no rights. And I am concerned that we are expecting a doctor who took a Hippocratic oath to do no harm first to now perform an abortion, or in this case, a murder on a small child. And that is my concern.
Any further discussion on the amendment? Senator Utke?
Madam Chair, I would just, when we get to the time of a vote, request a roll call, and that it be recorded in the journal.
Are there 3 hands to support the request? Seeing 3 hands, there will be, the roll call will be recorded in the journal. Any further discussion on the amendment? Senator Mann?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So again, this is a perfect example of why politicians should not be making medical decisions, is because we are literally making stuff up and writing laws about it at this exact moment. A child does not come out part way alive and then doctors kill it. That's not a thing. That's not a thing today. It's not a thing tomorrow. It's not a thing 10 years ago. It's not a thing. So for us to legislate things that don't exist in real life, again, perfect example of why politicians should not practice health care. And so I would recommend a no vote on this amendment, Madam Chair.
Any further discussion on the amendment? Seeing none, Ms. Ryan, please take the roll.
Chair Wicklund?
No.
Vice Chair Mann? No. Lead Utke?
Yes.
Senator Abler? Yes. Senator Bolden? No. Senator Hoffman? No. Senator Kupek? No. Senator Leisky?
Yes.
Senator Morrison?
No.
Thank you. There being 3 yes votes and 6 no votes, the motion does not prevail. The amendment is not adopted. Members, are there any further amendments? Senator Utke?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to offer the A1 amendment.
Members, I believe this is in your packet as well. Senator Utke?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Members, just a quick short amendment. As you've heard from me earlier, I'm not in favor of any abortions, but we have a bill before us that's opening up the floodgate for abortions. So with this amendment, we're just saying that certain abortions, those performed after the first trimester of pregnancy, be performed in a hospital with better care, so to speak, at least full care. All care needed is around them. And it's, as the baby grows, there can be more complications. And the one thing that data tells us at this point, too, as we get into the 2nd and 3rd trimester, the abortions are about 80% elective and 20% due to the mother's or baby's health. And just due to all the pieces that come into play, we're just saying, let's give them more support and more help to make sure they survive this. And so that's what this amendment does. And again, I would ask for a roll call and it be recorded in the journal.
Are there 3 hands to request the roll call be? I do not see 3 hands. Okay. I see 3 hands. The roll call will be recorded. Senator McEwen.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Senator. Colleagues, abortion is safe.
Members of the audience, I would encourage you to remember that we are not here, that outbursts are not appropriate. Senator McEwen.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My colleagues, abortion is safe. Having an abortion is safer than having a colonoscopy. It is safer than having a tooth extracted, and for the...
I would like to restate that I gave you my expectations for how this hearing is going to be run. It is not appropriate to make comments, remarks at all while people are testifying, while members are talking, while the senator is giving her answer. There should be silence. Thank you. Senator McEwen, please proceed.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So as I was saying, having an abortion is safer than having a colonoscopy. It is safer than having a tooth extracted. And we can all agree, to be clear, both colonoscopies and tooth extractions are both very safe. It's just that abortion is safer. Having an abortion is 14 times safer than giving birth. 1 in 4 people and women 1 in 4 women and people with uteri will have an abortion in their lifetime. Most people don't have abortions in a hospital because they don't need to. If a patient does need care in a hospital, they are appropriately cared for by their providers in that setting. So, colleagues, my concern about this amendment is that I feel that it is actually a way to ban abortion for many Minnesotans and to make it inaccessible. And the reason is that abortion providers don't generally have hospital privileges because they don't need them to provide abortion care. Also, a number of hospitals in Minnesota, we heard a question about this earlier, are religiously affiliated, and some of them may deny Minnesotans access to care if they wanted or needed to have an abortion. And then finally, colleagues, this language was previously passed into law by the Minnesota Legislature, but it has been ruled unconstitutional. And I also note that I believe the amendment does call for and provide for felony penalties for a violation, and I think that's important for people to know about the amendment. So in conclusion, the effect of this amendment, whether it's intended or not, is to stigmatize abortion care for patients and providers and to push it out of reach for most Minnesotans. So I ask you to please vote no on the A1 amendment.
Members, any further discussion on the amendment? Senator Liskey, and I would ask you to keep your remarks concise, please.
Yeah, just a very quick question in reference to one of the statistics you were using. Can you give us a reference to where it talks about abortion being safer than other healthcare procedures?
Senator McEwen.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Senator. I don't have the reference with me right now, but I will get the resources that I gathered my comments from, and I will provide you with that resource, and then you can have it and share it as you see fit.
Thank you, Senator McEwen.
Senator, and now we will move to a vote on the A1 amendment. Ms. Ryan, please take the roll.
Chair Wicklund?
No.
Vice Chair Mann? No. Lead Utke?
Yes.
Senator Abler? Yes. Senator Bolden? No. Senator Hoffman? No. Senator Kupek? No. Senator Leisky?
No.
Senator Morrison?
No.
There being 2 yes votes and 7 no votes, the motion does not prevail. The amendment is not adopted. Members, I would like to find out, I was hoping to move to a vote on the bill. Are there further amendments? I know that there are some at the desk, but I wanted to find out your intentions. Senator Otke.
Madam Chair, yes, we do have more, but number one, we'll probably have stops down the line to do some of this, and yes, you're trying to finish up. The clock is running against us, so I will not bring forward any more.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. And do members have any final comments that they would like to make to the bill? I would accept any else. Senator Mann?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would just like to briefly say that the rate of women dying during pregnancy in the USA is highest than it's ever been since the 2000s. It has more than doubled in the last 2 decades. And this is, while it's decreasing in other countries, right? So this is a key indicator of women's health. And as a society, we constantly generally don't really care about women's health, right? Because if we did, we wouldn't be dying at the rates that we are dying right now. And so we know, and we've heard today, that abortion care, when it is restricted, that it increases maternal mortality and morbidity, as well as child mortality and morbidity. And so the other thing we do is we paint a picture of women walking around 8 months pregnant and then saying, you know what, I don't want to be pregnant anymore, let's kill this baby. And that's just not real. We don't trust women in this society to make capable and appropriate medical decisions for themselves and for their families, and we need to change the way we think about that. We need to change the way we treat women in this society.
Thank you, Senator Mann. Senator Morrison?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to level set for a minute and just remind everyone that more than 90% of abortions occur in the first trimester. So abortions that occur after the first trimester are rare and overwhelmingly involve something that has gone horribly wrong with either the fetus or the individual carrying the pregnancy. And in some cases, it occurs outside of the first trimester because restrictive laws have prevented access to care and it has delayed care. So these later, outside of the first trimester terminations often occur in desperately wanted pregnancies, like we heard from the brave testifier, Tippy Edmondson. So to demonize these individuals and their families having to operate in this very difficult situation is frankly cruel. It's incredibly important, and its importance that abortion remain accessible, I think, is highlighted by the fact that some traditionally pretty conservative medical organizations, the American Medical Association, the American College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists, the Minnesota Medical Association, among others, have all come out in support of protecting access to abortion care as part of comprehensive reproductive health care. So this is an incredibly important moment in the history of our country. This is an incredibly important moment for Minnesota to stand tall. And I want to thank Senator McEwen for being brave and standing tall and standing up for the people of Minnesota. Thank you.
Thank you. Senator McEwen, do you have any final comments?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Colleagues, yes, just briefly.
Senator McEwen? I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry.
I'm going to go to Senator Otke. I didn't.
Oh, of course. Sorry.
Did you have?
Yeah, when we get to the final vote, I just would request a roll call and publish it in a journal.
Thank you. Go ahead, Senator McEwen.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll be very brief. Just in conclusion, colleagues, the PRO Act is a common sense bill that simply states that Minnesotans have a fundamental right to make their own reproductive health care decisions. This bill makes the government neutral in these intimate reproductive health care decisions, no matter one's personal feelings about abortion, about contraception, or various aspects of reproductive health care. We should all be able to agree that it is not the place of politicians or government to make those decisions for others. So I respectfully ask for your support for Senate File 1, and I thank you for your time today in this committee.
Thank you, Senator McEwen. Senator Mann, would you please make the motion? Senator McEwen is not a member of the committee, so I'm asking Vice Chair Mann to make the motion on the bill.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move SF1 be recommended to pass and be re-referred to the State and Local Government Veterans Committee.
Okay, members, you're clear on the motion before us. Ms. Ryan will take the roll.
Chair Wicklund?
Yes.
Vice Chair Mann?
Yes.
Lead Utke?
No.
Senator Abler?
No.
Senator Bolden?
Yes.
Senator Hoffman?
Yes.
Senator Kupek?
Yes.
Senator Leisky?
No.
Senator Morrison?
Yes.
Thank you. There being 6 yes votes and 3 no votes, the motion does prevail. Senate File 1 is recommended to pass and is re-referred to the Committee on State and Local Government and Veterans. We are at the end of our agenda for today. There being no further business before the committee, the meeting is adjourned.